that leadership is sacred work, that we get the privilege of investing in people's lives, and influence by definition means the power to change or affect someone. And I think if we could really internalize that definition of leadership, that we have the power to change or affect the lives of others, we'd hold it with a bit more reverence and responsibility, and recognize that it's absolutely a sacred privilege to lead others.
This is the L3 Leadership Podcast, episode number 235. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the L3 Leadership Podcast, where we are obsessed with helping you grow to your maximum potential and to maximize the impact of your leadership. My name is Doug Smith, and I am your host, and in today's episode, you'll hear me interview Jenni Catron. She is the founder of the Foresight Group, a consulting group focused on developing healthy leaders and thriving organizations. She's also a leadership expert and speaker, and has authored several books, including Clout, Discover and Unleash Your God-Given Influence, and The 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership. She's also served on the executive leadership teams of Menlo Church in Menlo Park, California, and Crosspoint Church in Nashville, Tennessee. Prior to ministry leadership, she worked as artist development director in the Christian music industry, and she is just a phenomenal leader. There is so much wisdom in this interview. I wanted to interview her for 3 or 4 hours. Unfortunately, I only got an hour with her. But if you've never heard Jenni before, get ready to take some serious notes. This is a fantastic episode. But before we dive into the interview, just a few announcements. First, I want to let you know that our L3 one-day conference is set for 2020. It's going to be on Friday, March 13th, right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We listened to everyone's feedback from our first conference, which was last year, and we are committed to making this year's conference even better, and we are so excited. So make sure you save the date, Friday, March 30th. Put that on the calendar. Plan on coming. Plan on bringing your team. We will have registration up soon. We are almost finished with finalizing all of our speakers, and I am telling you, it is an amazing lineup, so get ready. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Baritone Advisors. The financial advisors at Baritone Advisors help educate and empower clients to help make informed financial decisions. Find out how Baritone Advisors can help you develop a customized financial plan for your financial future. Please visit their website at Baritone Advisors, that's BERATUNG, advisors.com. Securities and investment products and services offered through Waddell & Reed, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Baritone Advisors, Waddell & Reed, and L3 Leadership are separate entities. I also want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jewelers. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny. Not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. In fact, they give every engaged couple a book to help them prepare for marriage, and we just love that. So if you're in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. With that being said, let's dive right into the interview with Jenni, and I'll be back at the end with a few announcements. Great. Well, Jenni, hey, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today and making time. And let's just start off with you just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show today. My name is Jenni Catron. I lead a company called the Foresight Group. And that's an organization that's designed to help equip leaders to be thriving and healthy, and to help their organizations be thriving and healthy. So I know we'll get into a bunch of that because we both share the leadership passion, but that's what my day looks like. I spent the first decade of my career in the music business in Nashville. So I have had a good season of corporate life. And then I spent 12 years as an executive pastor before I started Foresight. So, wow. Just kind of a fun and unusual journey. And it's been the thread through all of it is the passion for leadership.
Yeah. And can you talk about where that came from? Did that come just as a result of you leading in the workplace and you developed a passion for that, or what drives that, and why are you doing what you do today?
Yeah. That's a super great question because, I was the kid who wanted to be a CEO of a record company growing up. I just had my sights set on that. If you speak Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3 achiever, on Strengths
I'm married
Finder.
to one. Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
You get it. Yeah.
Yep.
It can be amazing and it can be like exhausting. So super driven, ever since I was a kid. But I thought I'd run a record company. I thought I would be, a business girl. And I did that. That was the first start of my career. But I think when I first began working in a professional environment, I really didn't have a framework or an understanding of leadership. I really thought it was about position and authority and your place on the hierarchy, more so than, just a really healthy view of leadership. And I remember when I was promoted to leading my first team. So I had been promoted to the head of a department. I was like 23 years old.
Wow.
And I had a lot of responsibility. I felt the pressure of needing to succeed. I knew that my bosses had taken a risk putting me into such a big position. And every insecurity and fear started driving everything I did as a leader. So I became that awful leader who's micromanaging and, exhausting her team but completely oblivious, right? I mean, I was so fixated on succeeding that I didn't realize some of the damage I was creating with my team. And my boss at the time kind of sat me down. I came to him complaining, and instead he sat me down and he said, Jen, if you want to work with widgets, go work in a factory. But if you want to work with people, you're going to need to learn how to love them, to lead them.
Wow.
And game changer. I mean, that conversation has been the most pivotal conversation in my journey of growth. And really that understanding that leadership was so much more about the people that I was leading than about what I was achieving. And so it just shifted the framing for me of the significance of leadership, that I had a place of influence with this team that I was responsible for, and accomplishing and achieving our goals with them was so much more critical than just achieving the goal in and of itself. So that was kind of the catalytic moment for me. And I would say everything pivoted from there. Still was super focused on accomplishing and wanting to succeed and climb the ladder. But it all became, it continued to grow in my awareness of the impact I was having on my team, and, how I was leading them would directly impact, how they showed up, how they used their gifts, et cetera. So it was embedded there. And then I just became this crazy student of leadership, studying everything I possibly could to learn and to grow as a leader.
Who have been some of the major influences in your leadership?
Yeah. Of course, John Maxwell. I think it was a John Maxwell
My
book.
hero.
Right. I mean, he just, for the last several decades, he's been that voice that for all of us trying to learn and grow, he was that voice. And his was one of the first books I picked up.
Wow.
So clearly his work, but then I would say disproportionately, the leaders that I've served with have been really critical to my journey. Obviously, Alan, who was that boss who kind of sat me down and had a pretty tough conversation with me, that was really important. And then my team, I've made so many mistakes as a leader, and it's usually been in those moments where I was willing to get honest and they were brave enough to be honest with me, that some of my best growth happened as a leader was because I was willing to hear and listen to the people around me and what they were observing or experiencing from my leadership. And I would say that's some of my best teacher.
Yeah. Can you talk about that journey? I'm just curious, where you were, you could say, a task-driven leader, and you had to move to the relational leader part.
Yeah.
One, how long did that actually take you? Was that a hard period of growth for you? And I'm just curious, what were some of the tactical things you started doing? Did you meet with your team and say, hey guys, I just had this wake-up call? And I'm just curious practically how you carried that out.
Yeah, great question. So I would say it's certainly a journey, and I'm still naturally very task-driven. I mean, my team knows this now. So, I hope I'm a more self-aware leader than I was, years ago, but, that's a journey of growth too. But I know that I can have a tendency, if my day's super packed and I'm just go, I can walk into somebody's office and be like, hey, did we get, this report ready? Or did we get this email sent out? Or and then I'll catch myself and I'll be like, oh, hey, good morning, Jessica. And my team, we're honest enough about it that I'm kind of picking at myself. I'm acknowledging, okay, hey, there I went to my default, because we all default to whatever our natural inclination is. And I'm tasked. So under stress, task is going to come out. But I would say, and I would hope that my personal growth, my self-awareness has grown, and that I will now catch myself when I'm lacking some relational intelligence. And so things like that will happen, that I'll just be in the zone, and I'll catch myself and I'll acknowledge it. And then we both laugh And they're like, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing great, Jen. All right, let's get, back to this. But I will say that I have practically done some things. For instance, when I'm doing one-on-one meetings with my staff, I have a kind of framing in my mind of the first 5 to 10 minutes of that meeting are checking in with them relationally. And I make it a task on my list to do the relational. Now that sounds disingenuous, but it actually works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm making it on my agenda because I know it's important. So because I'm wired to think task, if I make it a task, it makes it a priority. And so it shifts something for me to say, hey, no, this needs to actually be what I start with. I want to connect. And I do really care about people. That's the thing.
Sure.
It's not that I don't care. I do really care. And then I actually keep an Evernote file of like notes about, hey, one of my staff, their kid had a basketball or a football game this weekend. And, so if I just catch things that I hear people talk about that they have going on in their personal lives, I'll make a note of it because I might not remember it. But if I make a note of it, then when I have that space to just kind of chit chat, I know enough about their world that I can engage it. So I've done some simple things like that, and then you just see the value over time. I would say that because of being intentional to create space for the relational side of things, I now see the value in it, and I can almost be too slow to jump into the agenda. Even on our staff meetings recently, I had to kind of tighten up the catch-up time at the beginning of our meeting because I was like, oh, wait, we're not getting to the rest of our agenda. So I would say I've grown in it. I've had to be kind of purposeful and create some practical ways to build relationship, and knowing how does that best look for me? What's the best way for me to create? And I like to schedule lunches with team members because that's I feel like I'm multitasking. We're doing lunch and we're catching up, and, so I don't feel like I'm burning regular time trying to just catch up relationally, which probably sounds bad, but hopefully you hear the hard
No,
bit.
I'm with you. Yeah. And so it sounds like, so you talked about part of your goal and passion is to develop healthy leaders and healthy organizations. It sounds like part of the journey to becoming a healthy leader for you is self-awareness. And can you just talk to leaders listening to this, how can they become self-aware and on the road to becoming a healthy leader, no matter where they are in their journey?
Yeah, that's so good. And that's a big passion point of mine is the self-leadership, the self-awareness piece. I don't remember exactly where I kind of landed on this, but one of my personal mantras became lead yourself well to lead others better. And that I just began to recognize that if I'm not healthy as a leader, I'm not going to be able to lead my team in a healthy way. And, I think it's Maxwell, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? Yeah. And so there's a disproportionate responsibility to the seat of leadership. And if I'm not modeling it, I can't expect it of other people either, So the self-awareness piece, I think, I think what happened for me was I was, just racing to accomplish so many things as a young leader. And pretty soon you discover the blind spots in your leadership. Either other people point them out or you trip up enough times that you recognize, okay, this is continually becoming a hindrance to my leadership. And I've got to develop, the relational side of leadership. I had to develop that. And I needed to be more self-aware that other people need more time to connect with me and with one another than to just be task focused. And so I think it's an acknowledgement that I need to be self-aware as a leader. And then there are great tools and resources to do that. Tons of great books written on emotional intelligence. There's a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 that gives you an assessment on 4 different areas of self or of emotional intelligence that you get a rating and understand like where your blind spots are in your emotional intelligence. And self-awareness is one of those 4 areas. And so I think you've got to, and I think sometimes leaders have to hit a few bumps before we're willing to acknowledge, okay, maybe I do lack some self-awareness. There's a humility in that. And sometimes we're not, sometimes it takes a few bumps and bruises before we're willing to acknowledge that. But personally, in my own story, I have just seen a willingness to be self-aware, such a critical part of my growing influence as a leader.
Yeah. Do you think that set you apart as a young leader? I mean, I think it's pretty incredible at 23, you were able to get that much responsibility. Do you see that as a great separator of people who continually go to the next level versus those who don't?
I really do. And I think we're going to see this more and more. I think historically, we've, especially in corporate environments, and we've seen people get promoted into positions where they were promoted to the next position because of all that they accomplished. They were an amazing salesperson, so they got promoted to the head of sales. They were great at this particular function, and so they got promoted to oversee that team. And what we find is that rarely, just because you were excellent at the function does not make you excellent at the leadership of that function. And so there's a whole just set of soft skills, which is really a misnomer, because these are some of the hardest things to do, is to grow in our emotional intelligence and be self-aware and all of these things. But we call them the soft skills of leadership. I think those skills are becoming more and more critical, because we need leaders with intuition. We need leaders with good self-awareness, good others awareness. People who are good communicators, are able to read a room. Like all of these, again, kind of soft skills are becoming more and more critical, where most of the functions are in our jobs today if anything can be automated, it will be automated, and there will be a robot doing it. And which leaves the people skills that are more intuitive and not, that's where great leaders are going to excel, is the leaders who are able to really understand and read people and lead people well. And I think it's going to continue to be a key differentiator.
Yeah. And so if it's extremely important for us to develop ourselves and become healthy leaders, it's obviously important as leaders to make sure that the leaders under us in our organizations are growing into healthy leaders as well. And you work with a lot of organizations on this subject. And I'm just curious, how can leaders make sure that not only themselves are healthy, but the teams they're leading, their staff, their organization, so they don't have dysfunction everywhere?
Yeah. And you've got to make space and time for this. I think this is one of the things that I see happen a lot, is that we're afraid we don't have margin, or we don't have time for the people development stuff, because, most of our organizations and our companies, our schedules are packed. We've got a ton of things going on. We feel like we don't have margin for some of these things that feel more like a luxury. My conviction is that you don't have time to not do these things. And I kind of put a lot of this in that bucket of team culture, that like the heart, the people side of your organization is exceptionally critical to your success. You've heard the adage that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? That what's happening with your people is more critical, and is actually likely to hold you back from accomplishing your mission or your vision, more than anything else that's happening. In fact, I was reading recently on most organizations that either are stagnant or in decline, there's some internal issue actually holding them back. It's not an external competitor. I mean, there can be, and there's the exceptions. Sure. But by and large, the organizations that are either flatlining or in decline, it's an internal issue. There's something with their people. It's a people problem. And so we have to spend time on it. So to answer your question, I took a long way around that. But to answer your question, I think when you're in the leadership seat, you've got to make time for this. And it could be as simple as, let's say you've got a staff meeting and you decide that our team every month is going to read a book together, and you pick Emotional Intelligence 2.0, you pick a leadership book, you pick something that you're like, this is a topic that I want us to sharpen our skills on. And maybe you take the first 15 minutes of staff meeting and you just discuss a couple chapters, and you just are talking about it, and you're starting to get your team to talk about these things. I'm a big fan of personality assessment. So if your company or your organization uses Myers-Briggs or DISC or Enneagram or any of those personality assessments, don't just do it and then put it on a shelf. Like, do it and then study it and get to know your team. Like, really read their profiles, have one-on-one conversations to say, hey, so this was your profile. Tell me about what resonated with you. What should I know about your personality that would help me lead you better? So as a leader, you can use a lot of these tools, and everybody loves talking about themselves. So if you do these kind of, assessments and things together as a team, and you invite your team to tell you about how they work, what motivates them, what energizes them, where they get frustrated, you're going to get valuable information that's going to help you lead them better. And they're also going to grow. Because while you're doing that, you're also saying, hey, so here's what you learned about yourself. Now, what did you learn about your other teammates as you hear them share their personality or share what they're learning from this book that you read? What did you hear? What did you learn about them? And how is that going to help you better work with them now that you have more understanding of how they think, how they're wired, et cetera? So again, but you can, start somewhere, but create some place and some margin to focus on some of these team development skills because it's so valuable.
Yeah. And I do want to talk, just your latest book is The 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership, and it's based on the Great Commandments. Yeah. But Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Can you talk about the book and how leaders can implement this? Because I think it ties into everything that you're talking about. Yeah,
for sure. And I actually encourage people, use this one. It's a great starting point. And especially if you're a person of faith, the 4 dimensions, it's built on the Great Commandment. When Jesus says, love God and love others with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, he's implying that we need to love God and others with our whole being. And my question as I was writing this is, what would it look like to lead with all of who we are, heart, soul, mind, and strength? And very quickly heart is that relational side of leadership. Soul is the spiritual side of leadership. And that, if you're in a setting where maybe your spirituality can't be as overt, still your integrity, your character, your morals, everything that's based upon your spiritual life shows up in your work. So your soul still shows up in your work. Mind is the strategy because we need to set goals and tactics and make things happen. And strength is the visionary side of leadership because without vision, people perish. So a great leader is leading relationally, modeling their, what is important to them from a spiritual perspective. They're strategically giving guidance and direction, and they're casting vision to help everybody stay in alignment and work and move together. And that book, I unpack each of those 4 areas, and I point out how each of us has a strength in 1 or 2 of those dimensions. So as we've talked about, the relational side of leadership, the heart one, was a little lower for me early on in my leadership journey. The mind and the strength, I'm a big visionary and I can build a plan to make it happen, but I sometimes can bulldoze people and my heart and soul get a little lost in the equation. Well, the premise of that book is that Jesus doesn't say love God and love others if you have heart or if you have soul or if you have mind or if you have strength. He's implying that it's all in you. And so what I'm pushing leaders on is all 4 of these dimensions are in you. So you need to tap into those and you need to bring the best of who you are to leadership. All 4 of those dimensions need to show up. And I give you some practical ways that they can and how you can develop them. But there's also an assessment in there so that you can assess yourself on, okay, which of these 4 dimensions is stronger for me? Which one's weaker for me? And it's a great tool to take together as a team because you can help one another understand, okay, this is why she immediately goes to building a plan and, giving us all the detail because she just naturally thinks mind first. This is why I can have a zillion coffee meetings with people, but I never get a plan done is because I'm heart first. Well, There's some wonderful things about that, but it needs to be in balance. So that's what I dig into on the 4 dimensions.
That's so good. You did write another book that I just wanted to touch on. I more or less want to talk or hear your thoughts on women in leadership, but I love the title of your book. It's called Just Lead, No Whining, No Complaining, and No Nonsense Guide for Women Leaders in the Church. Yeah. Why did you write this and what is your message to women leaders in today's world?
Yeah, I wrote it because the publisher reached out and said, hey, this book needs to be written. Wow. At the time, I was serving as an executive director of one of the largest and fastest growing churches in the country. And I was a female in the second chair seat. And in the church culture, that's pretty unusual, especially 7 or 8 years ago when we wrote that book. And but I also was like, it's the no whining, no complaining, guide, so I'm kind of a no nonsense. If God has equipped you, if he has called you, if you've been given the gifts of leadership or you've been put in a place of leadership, don't shrink back from that. Yeah. Do that with humble confidence, right? You've got to confidently go into it, do it with a healthy spirit of humility, but don't shrink from that. And that's, I think, the message that I feel like is so important for women leaders to hear today is don't make the excuses. Be respectful, of the context you're in and the leaders that you serve with, but just lead, just do it, because we need you to show up with your gifts and your talents and your experiences and your opportunities, because they're unique and you're going to bring perspective that we need from one another. So I personally am like, I'm just a leader. I'm a leader. I happen to be a female, right? I don't lead with I'm a woman leader. I'm just a leader. I feel like I'm called to lead. I'm passionate about helping equip leaders, and I happen to be a girl. And, and I try to look at it in that order so that I don't get hung up by it. But I think I appreciate you asking the question and just helping champion women to lead.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
No, I love that. And I would say I'm on the exact same page. And I'm just curious, I'll just leave this open, but do you have any advice to men who maybe have been leading for a long time and even making room for women, or how to lead women if they've never done that before? Or I'm just curious if you have any advice for men.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I would just suggest recognize that sometimes women, I'm telling women, just lead, don't hold back, show up, be present, bring who you are. But also many of them do have some insecurities about leading, and it could be their background, could be theological, if they're in the church context, different churches have different perspectives on that. So there can be a lot of reasons why women will feel a little insecure to assert themselves. So anywhere where there's a guy who believes in them and can help call that out, I say one of the best gifts we can give one another as leaders is to give the gift of belief. That all of us want to be believed in. And oftentimes we need somebody to see something in us and believe something in us even before we believe it in ourselves. And I think that's true regardless of gender, but I think especially for women leaders. I look back at my journey, and there's a handful of guys who were my bosses throughout my leadership journey who were super intentional to see potential in me and to name it and to kind of throw me in the deep end. Like I said, that, 23 years old and heading up a department, but they believed in me and I rose to the occasion. So I would say to the guys, if there's a young woman on your team, if there's a woman on your team who you feel like has potential, promote her on that potential, not on her that she's proven it, right? Promote her on potential, or give her opportunity based on potential that you see in her, and then help just affirm that and give and then equip her. Like if she needs some resources, or she needs some tools or development, then equip her. She might just need that little gift of belief to help it come out of her.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the best things you can do.
Yeah. When I think about your personal journey, and again, I don't have as much context around this as you would, obviously, but I do want to talk about transition and leadership. So again, you may have had more than this, but you obviously transitioned from the record company, you've been at 2 churches, and now, you transitioned to your own thing. Yep. What have you learned about transitions as a leader, and how do you even process transition? I'm just curious. I think it's a huge topic that's not talked about a lot. Yes, it is a huge topic that isn't talked about a lot. And I think, so in each one of those transitions, I had to reconnect with my own sense of purpose and mission. I think a lot of ambitious leaders tend to kind of wrap our identity in what we do. It's not a healthy thing, but I think we just naturally do that. And at each of my key transitions, I had to really just kind of wrestle through, okay, wait, who am I? What is true about my purpose, my identity, my calling, apart from any role that I play? Because at every transition, that's felt a little rattled. I was this for so long. And then, can I be this? Should I be this? Do I fit in here? You have all those questions. So I think every transition, getting back to that core sense of purpose about who you are, how you're wired, how you're gifted, just clarity of identity, I think is so, so critical. And we face that when we do transitions. And I think sometimes it catches us off guard, right? The other thing that I would say is that every time I've transitioned, it has required more patience with myself and more compassion with myself for adjusting to something new. And I feel like this has almost gotten worse the older I get, because I think every transition, I have more years of experience under my belt. I've had more laps, and I feel like I'm more on top of what it takes to lead, and that should be transferable in any environment. But with every one of my transitions, it has always taken me a bit longer to
adjust, to get comfortable in the new space, in, the new seat of whatever I'm doing. And so it's required greater patience and compassion with myself, in that I beat myself up sometimes of like, oh, well, I should be able to just jump right in and like tackle this. And I know fundamentally what I need to do in this role. But back to the relational side, there's always the dynamics there. And then every new role is it's different. And I've got to learn new skills. I've got to learn new things about me. And so that part of the patience and compassion with myself it startles me every I've only done a few transitions, but every time it catches me off guard.
Yeah. And in your new season, at least the season you're in now, you do multiple things. I do want to dive deep into just a few. I guess I would like to hear about speaking. That's probably my first one I want to learn more about. But you're a public speaker. You speak all over the world, conferences. A lot of people listening to this aspire to public speaking. I'll just leave this really open-ended. What are your thoughts on public speaking and those? What would your advice be to those who want to do it?
Yeah. So public speaking became a bit of an overflow of some of what I was doing, and the work that it snuck up on me. I guess I'll say that. But I think if it's something you are interested in, maybe scares you and exhilarates you, because typically those two things go hand in hand with public speaking. If you're interested in it, I think you've just got to do it, and you've just got to create the opportunities for it, and give it. It's going to take time, right? So, when I first started speaking, I still spend a lot of time in crafting my talks and rehearsing those. But I spent disproportionately more a decade ago when it was really brand new to me. So I think, and study good communicators, but I think finding your style is probably one of the things that I would encourage. We all see some of our favorite speakers and we see their style, but I think getting comfortable with what's natural to you. And there's good best practices around, just how to start a talk, energy, flow, all of those things, and study those and get that. But I think also having a sense of what's unique about my style or my delivery, and not trying to be something else. That's probably been a big learning for me too, is being comfortable with what does it look like for me to be a speaker.
Yeah. And are opportunities something you pursue, or do you let them come to you?
They mostly come to me at this point because of, the work that I'm doing at Foresight. It's a mix of consulting, coaching, and speaking. And so most of it has come to me. Occasionally I'll reach out for something that I'm like, I'd really love to be a part of this event for whatever reason. But it's more so an overflow of the work that I do.
Yeah, and let's talk about coaching and consulting for a minute. So why do leaders even need coaching? And there's so many books out there. You can watch TED Talks. Why do they need a coach, or why do they need an outside party to come into their organization to work with them?
Yes, and great question and great setup, because we have more information and more access at our fingertips than ever before, right? Like we can go listen to some of the best communicators, speakers, and thought leaders, with a quick search. The problem is implementation. Most of us have more information than we know what to do with, but we're terrible at implementation. We get stuck. And in fact, I think it's a bit of information overload, because we're like, well, we could do this, or we could do this, or what if we did this, or what if this happened? And so I think that the implementation side, I think, is where coaching and consulting becomes really critical. And I see myself, when I'm working with the clients we serve, I see myself as that their accountability partner of sorts, and coming in and on the consulting side, I'm coming in and I'm helping organizations or leaders assess, where do we need to focus? What is core to our purpose? Is there an issue with our team? Is there something strategically we need to focus on? And those are kind of our three building blocks of our framework: is purpose, culture, and strategy. So I'm coming in and I'm assessing what's going on in each of those three buckets inside your organization, and what needs attention. Where's the roadblock that's inhibiting you from accomplishing what you want to accomplish? And then I become kind of that accountability partner to say, okay, here, now let's build your plan. Let's see what it's going to take to accomplish what you want to accomplish. But now I'm the person holding you accountable to that plan, because next week you're going to read an article and it's going to make you want to shift. You're going to want to pivot, because you're like, but over here they're doing this.
Yeah.
Or I just saw on Instagram that this company or this organization is doing this. Should we be doing that? And so we have information overload, and we lack the discipline to stay the course with something that's going to end up having long-term impact and help us accomplish our vision. So I become kind of your accountability partner in holding you, and kind of I talk about organizational anxiety all the time, that's what's going on for many of us, is that there's just kind of this anxiety of what should we do this, or should we do this, or what about this, or, and my job is to come and kind of quell that organizational anxiety and help you have the confidence to stay the course on the things that, and we've done good work to define where you need to be focused. Same thing with coaching. Coaching is usually a little bit more personal, and usually at the executive level, where we're saying, okay, where do you need to grow as a leader? And then helping just kind of step by step walk you through tools and resources, or talk you through situations that you're navigating in your business or in your ministry that help you move forward. And it's that point of accountability, and that's that person who's holding you to implementing the things that you've talked about. And I believe that's the best contribution that consultants and coaches can make, is to just be that person who helps keep bringing you back into focus.
It's good. And if someone's listening to this and they're saying, wow, that sounds awesome, I want to connect with Jenni, how can people connect with you and your company?
Yeah. Our website is getforesight.com. The word get, G-E-T, the number 4, and the word sight, SIGHT.com. And my email is Jenni, Jenni, at getforesight.com. Comes straight to me. So I always love connecting with people too.
Great. And we'll include links to all of that in the show notes. One more question before we dive into the lightning round. You've written multiple books, and I'm just curious, what advice do you have to aspiring authors, and what have you learned about becoming an author?
Yeah. So writing is amazing, and it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, writing a book in particular. But just write every day, write everything you're thinking about, write when it's scrappy, write when you don't have anything to say. You might not publish it, but that discipline of writing is so critical. So develop the discipline of writing. That is what I would say is the most important thing. You need to have a healthy discipline of writing, and then you'll begin to craft you'll begin to see some of your core themes, ideas, stories start to merge into something that may become a book. But I would say just get in the discipline of writing before even deciding, I want to write a book on this. You might learn a lot about yourself in the writing process that will ultimately help you, will lead to the book that you really need to do.
Love it. All right, let's dive into the lightning round. Bunch of fun questions that I just like to take leaders through. First one is, what is the best advice you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
Yeah, so that would go back to Alan, who I talked about earlier, when he said, you got to love people to lead them. So that's still the stickiest one for me.
Love it. If you could put a quote on a billboard for everyone to read, what would it say?
Lead yourself well to lead others better.
Best purchase you've made in the last year for $100 or less?
Oh, that one's tricky. I should have been more prepared for this one.
This hits everyone the same. Literally, it's hilarious.
Isn't that funny?
Right? Yeah. And then everyone always says AirPods, and they're $160, but I let them go. AirPods are awesome.
You let them go on that. Yeah. It's probably something really simple, like a pair of shoes that are just comfortable.
Right.
And because especially when you're traveling all the time, like good shoes matter. So, and I like shoes. So I'm going to say it's shoes.
Other than your own, what are the top 2 or 3 books you find yourself giving away most often, at least in this season right now?
Yeah. There's a great book by Ruth Haley Barton called Strengthening the Soul of Your Leadership. It's one of my all-time favorites, Strengthening the Soul of Your Leadership. And then the Maxwell book that I first picked up when I was 23 was the 21 Most Powerful Minutes in a Leader's Day.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's the Maxwell one. And I give that away a ton too.
Love it. Top 2 or 3 podcasts you listen to consistently?
Entree Leadership, Story Brand, and that's probably the top 2.
You may have already answered this, but what are you passionate about right now?
What I'm really passionate about healthy team culture, that the team dynamic is so critical, and that's kind of core passion for me.
Yeah. What do you wish people knew about your journey that they may not know?
That it's lonelier than it looks. So, it's fascinating. You end up with, platforms of influence and things, but you have to fight for community and fight for relationships in that. So, yeah.
What's your greatest challenge right now?
managing my time, which I usually pride myself in doing, but I'm a young, fast growing organization, and I'm realizing I'm having to keep reinventing my schedule and what the priorities are all the time. So managing me.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask this earlier, but we'll make it a lightning round question. How do you deal with pressure? You even talked about, 23, you had all this pressure, so you had to perform. I'm sure that kept you up at night, but how do you deal with the things that keep you up at night as a leader?
I journal a lot. So I like whatever I'm processing as a leader, I usually am writing it out. That's probably the writer in me too, but I need to write it and to process it in some way that helps me like let go of it. And then a couple good people in your life that you can just kind of vomit to when you're trying to make sense of stuff. And, I've got a couple of those people that I'm like, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to hear it, and those are important.
What are you dreaming about right now?
I am dreaming about I'm dreaming about an era of leadership in general where we have extraordinary, healthy leaders leading organizations, and we don't see headlines just peppered with unhealthy, dysfunctional leaders. And I feel like we just story after story of those, some of them large scale, some of them small scale. But I just would love to see, and I would love to see this, the next decades of leadership not marked by leadership failure.
I love that. Absolutely love it. You get to meet with a lot of great leaders. I'm just curious, do you have a favorite question that you always ask every leader you meet with if you're out to dinner with them or coffee?
Yeah. Who's the person who's influenced you the most and why?
And did you already answer that with Alan or?
Yeah, Alan's definitely one of them. I'll give you another though. When I was 15, I totally, so it's crazy to envision, but 15-year-old, I was super shy, I'm introverted anyway, but I was also super shy. I go into this little ice cream shop in my local hometown to ask for a job application so I could work at this ice cream shop. And she hired me, and so a lady named Bonnie. And again, one of those people who gave me that gift of belief. Like I was this shy, timid 15-year-old kid, and she hired me, promoted me to manager within the first year that I was there. So, just threw me in, but believed, and I still see Bonnie to this day. And one of those people who just extraordinary influence. And again, I think sometimes we think influence has to be grand, but here's this owner of this small little ice cream shop in this little bitty town who sees this kid and says, I'm going to give her a chance, and believes in me. And I think a lot of my journey of success, if you will, is because of Bonnie, because of her belief in me.
I love stories like that. I had a high school principal that was similar. I mean, I can name 100 people, but yeah, it's just crazy. Those subtle little things.
It's always somebody that's just kind of ordinary in your life that has such extraordinary impact.
You talked about time management. I'm just curious, what's the greatest ROI for you right now? What's the greatest investment of your time and resources outside of your family? A lot of people say that.
Yeah. I would say the things that I do I would say like the things that I'm doing to learn and grow for myself. So because my job is so, I have to share so much content with others by way of consulting or speaking, coaching. I'm always kind of output, like I'm having to like give a lot of information. Time spent reading and learning is really, really huge. And it feels like a luxury, but that time that's huge ROI for me.
Do you have any unusual habits that enable you to be successful?
I am religious about my schedule. I get up at the same time every day. I run pretty much every day. Then I read for about an hour. And then I start work. And then I shut down at a certain time every evening. I have dinner. I have hangout with family. I go to bed at the same time. I sound boring.
I love it. I'm similar.
I promise that routine is so critical for my mental health, my physical health, the whole thing. Yeah.
Do you just run casually? I like to run. Are you a marathoner or anything like that?
I've done 3 half marathons.
There you go.
Because
awesome.
I have a competitive streak in me. I'm not fast, so
Right.
I'm never going to win them. So I have to set my own like internal goals. But now it's more, I say I run for treats. I just run to be able to, stay relatively healthy and eat, a few treats here or there. So I'm not training for anything specific right now. My husband and I have also hiked a number of mountains. He enjoys
Love it.
We've climbed the 14ers in California and
all of them?
Not all of them.
All the 14th? Okay.
Yeah. We did Mount Whitney twice, which that one's the highest in Southern California. We've done that one twice. We did Mount Lyell in Yosemite. We've done Half Dome, which is not a 14er, but we haven't done all of them. He probably has a zillion long of other ones he'd like to do.
Yeah.
And those are, I kind of love and hate them. But that's another kind of fun thing we do just to.
That's my next question. Name one item on your bucket list still left?
Oh, okay. I want to go to Wimbledon. I'm a big tennis fan.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I was able.
My wife and I went 2 years ago. That was a bucket lister, actually, for my father-in-law, and we went for his 60th birthday. Go! It's unbelievable.
That's awesome. So I went to the U.S. Open this year, which was phenomenal.
Awesome.
But Wimbledon, I'm a bit of an Anglophile. I love England. I love London. I've been to Wimbledon, but not during the tournament. Yeah. And so I would love to go to the tournament. That's a bucket list.
Who I'm just curious. Who are your favorite tennis players? Top male, female?
Top male has got to be Roger Federer. I've been a fan for so long, and I just think it's remarkable what he's accomplished in his career. Huge respect for Serena. Female is harder for me because the female players bounce around a lot, except for Serena.
Right.
But I did get to see Serena this year, and I was like, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued by Andrea, the girl who beat Serena this year.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting her last name because it's hard to pronounce. She's from Canada.
Yeah.
I'm super intrigued to watch her career because I think she's pretty phenomenal too. So
if you can go back to and have coffee with your 20-year-old self, what do you tell her?
Just chill out.
It's funny how many leaders, that's the advice. Just relax.
Just slow down. Yeah. Just take a breath. It's all going to be okay. But I still have to tell my 40-something-year-old self that.
Yeah.
But it'll be okay. Just breathe.
And at the end of your leadership journey, what do you want to be remembered for? And what do you want your legacy to be?
I want people to have said their life was better and richer because of however I was able to speak, encourage, invest in them. That, the story of their journey is so much richer because our paths crossed. Anything
else you want to leave leaders with today?
This is such a good interview. Thank you for this. This is fun. I think one of my deep beliefs is that leadership is sacred work, that we get the privilege of investing in people's lives, and influence by definition means the power to change or affect someone. And I think if we could really internalize that definition of leadership, that we have the power to change or affect the lives of others, we'd hold it with a bit more reverence and responsibility and recognize that it's absolutely a sacred privilege to lead others. So Fantastic. Keep leading well. Yeah.
Hey, I loved every second of the interview. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for investing in me and all the leaders that will listen to this.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for hosting the conversation. Really grateful.
Yep. Hey everyone, and thank you for listening to our interview with Jenni. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can find ways to connect with her and everything that we discussed in the show notes at l3leadership.org/episode 235. As always, if you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here at L3 Leadership, simply sign up for our email list at l3leadership.org. And when you do, you'll get a free copy of my ebook, Making the Most of Mentoring, which is my step-by-step process for getting meetings with leaders and cultivating those relationships. I know it'll add value to you, so make sure you get a copy of that. And as always, thank you for being a listener. And if you are not subscribed to the podcast yet, please subscribe today and share this on social media. Share it with a friend that it will add value to. That'll help us grow our audience, and we really appreciate that. So, hey, thanks again. As always, I like to end with a quote, and I quote Gerald Brooks often. I'll quote him again today. He said, "It's better to lose with character in life than to win with compromise." That's so good. Hey, thanks for listening and being a part of L3 Leadership. Laura and I appreciate you so much, and we will talk to you next episode.